Aloha. What up, world? It's your boy, Coach K808. This is the first ever Zoom podcast, YouTube episode, whatever the heck we're calling it, of LiveAloha365. Speaking of LiveAloha365, boom! There's a link to our website. It's live. If you're watching this, the website's live. Woohoo! Please go check it out. If you guys have any questions, comments, compliments, DM us on any social media platform. Send us a message on our website. Let us know what you think. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by... Just a little disclaimer. This podcast is not really brought to you by anybody because we don't have any official sponsors. But if we did have an official sponsor and we wanted to talk nicely about them, here's what we would say. Spreading aloha through ono and delicious food. There's no one better to be our first official podcast sponsor than Grinds with Tries. If you're in the PDX area, go check them out. It's awesome. Tell them Hayao or Coach K808 sent you. You probably will get thrown out for doing that, but that's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Try and get some food before you get thrown out. On the first ever Live Aloha 365 podcast is Janessa Mast. Janessa Mast has done all kinds of work in her life. When I was getting to interact with her a lot, it was when she was a spin instructor down here in Portland, Oregon. Guys, she's an amazing person. She's doing all kinds of amazing things. I want you guys to go check her out. So without further ado, please give it up for the great and powerful Janessa Mast.
I'm in my bathrobe still, so that's what working from home looks like now.
What's funny is I've got a huge blanket that's like on my bottom half.
Oh
that's
yeah,
like
same.
Warming up my feet.
Always.
Anytime I sit here, I'm always just like freezing.
I know.
My butt
Probably
off.
way more cold. I'm in sunny California, so.
Oh my gosh. Well, Janessa Mast, what's up? I'm gonna probably what people will be seeing is a cut up version of this because I'll probably do some intro that I'll edit in before. But Janessa Mast, what's up?
Here we are.
Here we are.
I'm so excited to talk with you. We always have the best conversations. So
that is something that seems to be a trend throughout our friendship for whatever reason. And I don't know if it's the same for you, but it seems very easy to talk to you about I don't know how to say it, life things.
Meaningful things. Absolutely. I always feel the same way. I always leave our conversations feeling energy rich instead of energy drained. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you're adding value to my life. There's just some people that just suck the life out of you. Luckily, You're not one of them.
I don't know that I want to be spending very much time with the vampires, the energy vampires. Yeah.
There's a lot of them right now. I mean, and I totally understand why.
Yeah. So easy to be sucking the energy away from people.
I'm definitely not my best self right now. I can say that, but I try hard every day to get better. And
so
the giver.
I feel like part of getting better, or I don't know, not taking control of your life, but part of your current life status is you just moved. You just moved to California. You grew up in beautiful, sunny all the time Oregon.
Right.
And then you went to rainy all the time California.
I know. No, I honestly love Oregon. I don't think anyone likes the rain, but I guess since I'm born and raised there, there's something about the rain and the Pacific Northwest. Like I really didn't necessarily want to move. It was like a very sudden decision. And when I made the commitment, I was gone in 2 weeks. So I didn't even really think about it. And this has definitely been, I would say, one of the toughest years of my life. I can think of one other year, but definitely this has been not the toughest, but the most challenging, unexpected. I think a lot of people are going to be able to say that, but also the year that I've probably grown the most. And I'm kind of I'm transitioning into just a different life where I'm thinking of different things and I have different priorities. So yeah, I moved and didn't think about it. And then I got here and I was like, what the hell did I just do?
It's funny how that growth or those changes, they like sneak up on you. And like all of a sudden you're like looking back and you're like, wait, what just happened? Like, how did that, who was the person I just was 5 minutes, 5 months, 5 years ago? How did I just get through all that? You know what I mean? Because you were, you had this huge passion for, hell, I'm just gonna just say like just inspiring and pouring into people's lives through a lot of like physical fitness stuff. You're just this badass psycho instructor. Taking your class before, highly recommend. Multiple occasions, multiple studios.
Kyle,
Yes.
you like actually been with me since the beginning.
For the trying to be the true OG. So, well, you were doing that within the move to California. Wasn't to continue doing that, right? You had moved for something else.
Yeah, first off, I really appreciate you saying that. It's very kind of you. Do we have time? Can I back up?
Let it rip. Yeah,
okay.
Of course. That's what this whole thing's for.
So
it'll give me the space to finish my morning coffee.
Oh yeah, I'm with you. This is my second
Cheers.
Cheers. And I'm gonna take a pre-workout after this. Just kidding. Maybe not. So in January, so I work for this amazing woman named Patty Aubrey. She is an author of Chicken Soup for the Soul with Jack Canfield, and she works in the women's personal development space specifically, and just all personal development for males too. When she works with Jack, but I really work with her on a program called Permission Granted, which gives women permission to like really stand up, show up in the workplace, in their homes, and be seen for who they really are. And, whether that's a mom that really wants to work corporate or a mom that wants to stay at home with her kids. So I did a event in Portland last year where I spoke on a panel with her. And then, this relationship grew. My sister, Jocelyn, she works for Patty as well. So I start working for Patty. I start really getting in the personal development space, which, me, that's my thing. Burn cycle, probably my number one passion in Portland. I'm not there anymore, but I have players still that go. And if you guys can go, they just shut down again, but take their virtual. I mean, it's the most amazing place. And I never really wanted to leave Portland because of that community. I really found like my tribe, I felt like. So, but with that being said, my body was just really tired. And I think as a collegiate athlete or just an athlete in general, going at that pace is just not sustainable. Mm-hmm. So when the pandemic hit, I was like, and I wasn't just working for Patty, I work in marketing and social media. So I had a bunch of clients. And when the pandemic hit, let me actually reverse. I also met, Patty introduced me to her son, who I like totally fell in love with very quickly. We moved really fast. We were just like totally like, you are the one. And which creates a very different, unique dynamic.
Very, very unique dynamic.
Yeah, very unique. But she's awesome. And she really wanted us to meet, and she was trying to push it for like a year. And I was like, you're crazy. So I met him. And then in January, I was playing sand volleyball at Corbin. Shout out to Gianna and Mel and everyone there. Which was also a very interesting experience. Let's just say I'm not a sand player, number one. Number two, I felt like a decade older than all the other girls. So it was interesting. And we're playing in the freezing cold and it's pouring down rain. I'm like, well, this was not what I envisioned, but it was awesome. It was an awesome experience. And so the pandemic hits a day before our first game against UP. And, I'm thinking, oh, this is only going to last like 2 weeks. So I go to California to be with my boyfriend and just kind of chill. And then next thing you know, I'm there for 3 months. I have a surgery, and I like really lay low. And then I come back home and I'm just really lost, like without burn cycle, I just was like, what is going on? Like, who am I without this place? How do I pour into people outside of this physical fitness space? Because that really is my passion, is like helping people see their potential and get to their potential and like really level up their life. So I'm like, okay, I don't know how I want to do this if burn cycle isn't a thing. And so I was just thinking, and I was applying for jobs because I knew, you know, with Patty, I didn't know if we were going to keep doing permission granted. I was just kind of in limbo. So I applied for like, I'm not kidding, like 200 jobs. Like I was just like, every day I was like going on, and I spent like 10 minutes a day just like applying for like the most random jobs everywhere. Cause I was just like, I just want to see, like, I really believe that this is a time that I should be experimenting, and I just want to see like what lands. And sure enough, it was like deny. All these like jobs that I was like, I'm overqualified for this. Like, why am I not hearing back? And one day this job posting got back to me really randomly, and I can't believe I even clicked on it because I never would go through. It was in my spam folder, and they were like, can you do an interview in 10 minutes? And all I knew about them was they were a nonprofit, and they worked with low income housing developments, and they work with kids and provide resources and tools for them to be successful. So I was like, I'm into that. I love kids. I love, you know, everything they're about. So I jumped on an interview. Next thing you know, we were chatting for 2 hours, which seems to happen a lot. I'm pouring my life story.
Surprise.
And
That's,
yeah,
big surprise.
Yeah, right. And then they were like, we want to hire you. So, and I was like, I don't know. I was just thinking, like, there's so many people losing their jobs. We're so uncertain. I don't know. I have to take this opportunity. It was like too good to not pass up. It was in Santa Barbara, California, which does not suck. And it was near my boyfriend. And so I literally signed a lease on an apartment and was out within 2 weeks. I drove a U-Haul down to 16 hours.
Crazy.
And then I was there. And then about a month in, I ended up leaving that job because there were some things behind the scenes that just I didn't necessarily agree with and just didn't align with kind of who I was as a person, which was shocking, right? Because that's really why I moved down here. So now I work virtually, and I'm like in my house all day, and I don't know anyone down here besides my boyfriend and his family's friend. And I'm just realizing I don't even know what the original question was, but that is how I got it.
No, that was you said the long version. That was like the medium version. That was like a lot of good details. Where we started was, you know, just your life's journey and how, you know, you were at Burn Cycle and you kind of moved to California, and what was that all about? And you totally covered that in a theme I wanted to bring up, which also, I mean, it's same thing with today. You texted me like 30 minutes ago. You were like, there's no chance you could like do the Zoom today, right? But do you feel like this year has been just a year of like flexibility and just like pivoting, like to move your entire life down and then pivot? You know, I would assume if this was a movie, right, most people would just be like, whatever, I'm just going to eat it at this new job that I've now pigeonholed myself into or whatever, right? I mean, you know, I think not only is being flexible or pivoting, or I don't know how else to articulate
adaptable.
Being adaptable, and you know, being okay with the risk reward and the courage it takes to be adaptable and flexible. I mean, I think that's got to be a theme of 2020, and it's got to be a theme of, I don't know how to, just that upper echelon, top tier of person who, okay, I'm going to make these decisions. I'm going to be dynamic. I'm going to move to California. Boom, things are not happening that align with me ethically or whatever. So I'm going to, there's no hesitation to just pivot. I mean, I don't know if you agree or not.
Yeah, no, I mean, first and foremost, I think this is a year of like massive forgiveness for ourselves and for other people. I think just collectively as a, you know, human species,
it's so strange. You say it's a year of forgiveness, and immediately I didn't even think to forgive myself. I just thought forgiveness, and I just saw a person across from me. But you're so right. Like,
Oh,
Like, I mean, that's been a big theme in my life too. Anyway, not to cut you off because I
no,
wanted to
no,
keep
no, no.
going. I'm trying to
No,
like
you're
really
right.
echo
Yeah.
that point of like, yeah, but
Yeah.
you gotta like take care of you.
Yeah, it's a year of grace, really. And there's really times, and there's times that we just gotta put our head and nose to the ground and just do the work and force ourselves to do it. You know, I think about that like when I'm in the middle of struggle. But then there's a time to sit back. You know, I was just reflecting in December. It's always a year of reflection for me of like, and I was like, wow, this year has been a complete dumpster fire for a lot of people. And I'm going to be really kind to myself because I didn't get a lot of the things done that I set out in January. Like in January, I had these massive goals. I'm like, I'm going to play on the AVP tour and I'm going to, you know, and it's like, yeah, throw that one out the window. That's not happening as much as I'm just giving myself grace with that. And really on the topic of, you know, being adaptable too, I think we have to keep in mind that and I really talk about this a lot when I was coaching with players is like everything is not going to be perfect, and nobody brought you into this life promising that you weren't going to struggle, promising that you were always going to be happy all the time. And luckily I'm from such a, you know, my mom has really instilled that, and I've gone through things at an early age that taught me that. I got life firsthand experience with that. But I understand that I'm going to fail and I'm going to make mistakes and I'm going to take risks that may not be the right ones, but that's the only way I'm going to learn, right? So when I was thinking of like moving to California, every part of me was like, what are you doing? No, this is probably a really dumb idea. It's too quick, blah, 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 blah. And then there's like a moment, and this goes back to like forgiveness, grace of like, okay, and what if it is? What if you do fail? Then what? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to learn more about something you don't want or do want, or, even with this job, right? It's like, I was so excited and it ended up being not what I thought it was going to be. But then I learned certain elements of the things I do want from a CEO or from a company. So that way I take it into the next interview that I do, right? So it's like, I just forgive myself a lot. And that's taken a lot, like, shout out to therapists, my therapist, Barbie. She, you know, we've worked together for a year. Like a lot of the times, especially as women, we have a hard time with that. And I don't know, also athletes, like we are taught just push harder, do better, grind it out.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares what your body's saying? You have work to do. You know, you have a game, like you got to put your game face on. And I think a lot of athletes were so good at like turning it off and on. And so sometimes it's okay to just be like, yeah, that game or that moment or that time just didn't go the way I wanted it to, and I'm going to forgive myself and just acknowledge it and move on.
So here's a question that I think of when you say those things. What is it that you're doing daily to forgive yourself? Like, you know, it's like you look at and it may be you just like look in the mirror and be like, I forgive you, man, or whatever. You know, I don't know if do you have like daily practices that you're like, yeah, like this, forgiving myself looks like this.
I would say I have like a morning ritual. I mean, I think you know this. I'm a big believer of like winning the morning and like having routine practices that get you into a more intentional headspace. So like, first off, I ask myself a lot of questions. I always question my thoughts, my behaviors, other people's perspective. Like I'm just really curious, you know, especially with like politics. This has been a really polarizing year for politics. Like I'm someone that's like, regardless of what side you're on, I want to know more. I always want to ask more. And that includes myself because, you know, we really only have a perspective from our own, you know, our childhood, our life. So every morning I journal, and you know, that includes gratitude and kind of just reviewing the day, reviewing how I really feel. I think it's important to stay in like, how do I actually feel today? You know, if I'm feeling drained, tired, sad, whatever it is, or if I'm feeling joyful, energetic, I am able to notice, okay, yesterday was a terrible day. You know, last night I cried, whatever. So today I'm just going to give myself permission to forgive and just like give myself a deep breath and just put my hands in there and just let go. So I think a lot of it is really journaling and asking those essential questions of like, how do I feel? And now what intentional step do I need to take? Do I need to be kinder to myself, or is this a moment that I need to push? You know, and that really comes from like, I would say years of asking that question.
That kind of practice to me seems to fall under a I don't know, an umbrella of things that are a consequence, or I had a mentor / coach one time, so like, okay, it's a consequence, like a bad thing, but if you do something on purpose, right, and it's positive, it's a pro-sequence.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Pro-sequence of you being being intentional about that is like you begin to like feel more in charge of your life. And I'm not suggesting that you like oh yeah, you just journal in the morning and then boom, like you're like like it's obviously not that easy, right? It's like all these steps, but
yeah, I mean, it's like these little habitual practices that add up. And I don't know if have you read Atomic Habits by James Clear?
I haven't, but it's all been suggested to me.
Oh my gosh, you got to read it. It's probably my favorite book of all time. And in fact, we're going on a 6-hour drive today, and I told my boyfriend, I'm like, we should listen to that. Like, we've listened to that 3 times. I'm like, what's it for? Like, let's do it.
There's probably something in there that like will speak to me more right now.
Yeah, right.
I am signed up for James Clear's email thing.
Oh, really?
It's like a 3-2-1.
I'm not. I need to.
Coach Mel Hamilton signed me up, or she was doing it, and I was like, that's pretty cool. Like, what is that? And I couldn't even tell you how to sign up for it now, but
he's amazing. I really am a firm believer that small things add up. It's not, we always focus on the big goal.
Yeah.
We lose sight of like how important these little steps are that make this enormous change in our life. Because we always think like, I want to become a runner, so I'm going to go out and run 13 miles. And it's like, okay, well, that's ridiculous. Like that's, how about we start with 1 mile and then 2 miles, you know what I mean? So
yeah. I hear you. And people need to give themselves the space to be more creative. Like a little goal could be like, I need to go find my shoes and like leave them by my bed, so that when I get up, I can just put them on.
Yeah.
Then I'm more inclined to like, whatever. In that same realm of habits, I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about how like remove as much friction as you can from you and whatever it is you want to do. Like make it easier for yourself. Like candy bars on the thing, just move it away. Put other things on the kitchen counter.
Willpower is never enough. And it's so funny. My boyfriend and I are very, very different. Like we couldn't be more different. And, I'm like super disciplined, like routine, structure, and he's like, let's have fun too. But I am a firm believer that willpower is never enough. It's not enough to just deny. You have to set yourself up with systems, processes, and environment that actually allows you to thrive. So, last night, actually, I was just saying, I scroll on Instagram and Facebook and on my phone for like an hour before bed. And it just, next thing you know, it's like 11. And I'm like, I got to get up at 6. Like, this is not good. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to start leaving my phone out on the kitchen counter charging. And I'm going to get an alarm clock, a regular alarm clock that wakes me up in the morning. Or I don't keep bad food in my house because I will eat it. Like, I'm not someone that like has the discipline to say no, or like, I am naturally a lazy person, but I set up a life where other people are, that's why Burn Cycle was so great. It's like, I would wake up at 4:30 a.m. to go teach a 6 a.m. class, and I was exhausted. I didn't want to, but there were people counting on me. So it's like, I set my environment and life up so that there's some accountability and structure where I have to show up. That's why I do group classes, things like that. So I just think you have to know yourself well enough to know, like, am I actually going to go to the gym if it's just me, or do I need accountability? If so, how do I create that accountability?
You make me think of this, I don't know, not theme or mantra, but like, so everyone knows that like is the logical approach to like life.
Right.
Like, yeah, we know like this much sleep is good and we should drink this much water and this much exercise. You know, like there's the robot take to life. Like, yeah, obviously you should just do these things, then boom, you're done.
Yeah.
Right. And then the human element uh gets mixed in, right? And
Mhm.
so I guess something that I would love to hear your thoughts on is like you're like, oh, I am naturally a lazy person. I'm like, damn, I'm so tired. I don't want to do these things. So like, why do you do them? Like, why are you setting up your life like this?
Mm.
Um, like
Yeah.
it's so much easier to just
Oh yeah.
like be lazy. It's so,
Totally.
like, hey, like you could, dude, like you could totally get through life. Like
Yeah.
you
Right.
know how many people
True.
like have gone through their whole life just like, nah, like that's what I do. You know,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like why does Janessa Mast set those things up for herself and you know are continually asking yourself these questions and giving yourself grace? Like why are you setting your life up like that?
Well, number one, I will say first that I just know the benefits. I've been able to stick with things long enough, and I think this is where we go wrong. Is let's just first put it out there that it's hard. It's very hard to be that disciplined. It's super hard. Guess what? You know, in college, I missed out, you know, on parties and I didn't, you know, Kaylia can attest to this. I was in the gym every morning at 6 a.m., even though I had, you know, class and like I did everything I could do because I knew when it came to playoffs or when it came to set 5, where we're, you know, it's 13-14, that's the moment that it's going to pay off. And I just always had that in mind is like, what is, for example, right now, it's like, I'm going to Hawaii in March and I you know, I really want to be strong, confident, blah, 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 by the time I get to March. So that's always in my mind when I do things now. And I think that a lot of people can't get through, you know, can't make it long enough. Let's say 21 days, right? Or 30 days. They don't make it to that mark where they realize they can do hard things and still feel good. Um, I would say another, of course, I have to mention this is like, I work in the self-development space and I work with some of the most successful people in the world. And I get to see kind of an inside to their life. And Tools of Titans is a great book. You will see and you will
Yep.
quickly find out the most successful people usually all have very distinct practices that are pretty common. There's a common theme. You know, they wake up early. Like some of them wake up at 4:30, not my thing. Some wake up at 6, but they wake up early. They have a routine in the morning and they start their day with intention. Like it's just tried and true and it works. And sometimes you just have to, and that's sometimes those moments where you have to force yourself to just do it. I was talking with my boyfriend the other night. I'm like, when my alarm goes off, I'm usually tired and I usually don't want to get up, but I don't even allow myself to think. I just jump. Like I just get out of bed and
Yeah.
you know, if I come out and I'm still like, I'm so tired for like an hour or two, then I'm going to listen to my body, forgive myself and be like, okay, I'm going to take a nap today, whatever. But I think people just have to understand that it's not easy, right? And I know everyone knows that. And there's things that you're going to have to give up, but that is, you know, an ebb and flow with life. Like when I'm really working on my health, that means I'm not going to get as much time with my friends and family as I want because usually we go to happy hours and do those types of things. So I just have to keep that in, you know, and when we can't have 100% in all areas. You know what I mean? Some things got to give and take. So that's kind of a long way of putting. I just think that we have to get to the other side to understand that we can actually do these things. Everyone, you know.
Have you heard of the book Own the Day, Own Your Life? I feel like
Oh
you'd
yeah,
read it. Really like that. Have you read it? Yeah, it's right here on my shelf.
it's amazing. Yeah, I'm yeah, own the
Yep.
day,
Yeah,
win the day.
Aubrey Marcus fan with on it.
Yeah.
Have you, yeah, that book was pretty legit. Everything you're talking about. I'm like, yeah, dude, it's like the same thing in that book and many books of that we've been getting involved in. And I don't know. I think it's just like a positive thing that I guess I'm trying to figure out a way to put this, but like, why don't more people just do it, I guess. And I guess you're working in that space right now. What do you
Mhm.
feel like you and or colleagues are coming across that are like common themes of people just like, oh, like why do they seek self-help, or what gets in their way, or roadblocks, or
Oh yeah. Honestly, it's so funny because we always think we're so unique, right? Which we are. We're very every person is very unique and has very dynamic and different backgrounds, but a lot of us are really the same and we struggle with a lot of the same things, imposter syndrome, saying, I don't deserve this, I can't, nobody's going to listen to me, I'm not smart enough, I'm not educated enough. And that's something we call limiting beliefs. And these are like beliefs that limit us from really going to the next level or reaching our potential. And it's always we're in our own way. It's not, and when you give your power over to someone else, and when you say it's my coach or it's my boss or it's my relationship, they're the problem, you take away all control in your life. It's then that you are giving all your power over to someone else. So I think a common theme for people is these thoughts that they have in their head that they don't even question. They don't even question. Well, it's always, my mom was so funny. She was in town this weekend and everything, it's like, I have anxiety. Well, why do you have anxiety? I am afraid of XYZ. Well, why are you afraid of X, Y, and Z? And you get down to this root cause or root thought, and it's usually like that I'm not good enough, that I'm not like deserving enough, that I don't, whatever the reason is. I know for me, like I can speak to my own experience of like, I've always wanted to start my own business for like 5 years. I've had this idea of this space that I want. And I've always said, well, no, I'm too young. Nobody's gonna listen. And it's like, that's such, excuse my language, bullshit, because it's like, you're not too young. You have this experience. And I think that comes from being in positions of power per se, and people looking at me like, well, why should I trust you? You're a 20, at the time I was like 21. They're like, you haven't seen life. And it's like, oh, that's so unfortunate, because that puts that thought in my head when really age is just a number. So I think a lot of it comes down to these limiting beliefs that we all have, and these roadblocks, and not questioning them, and not taking the time to sit and work through them. And these are programmed and wired into our DNA. These aren't things that are just like, you're going to be able to sit and journal through and it's just going to be like, boom, it's gone. Like, it's a core part of who you are, right? And that takes a lot of like reprogramming and restructuring, and help. Sometimes we have to ask for help. Sometimes we have to ask a mentor that has had more life experience to walk through and say, am I crazy here? Or is this actually true? Like, what do you see? So that's really what I see as a common theme. Everyone has those thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. The reprogramming piece, from the people you've gotten to work with or work around, why does it seem to, I mean, I guess I say this from a perspective of like, I don't know that I've gotten to work with very many people like that.
Mm-hmm.
So why is it easy for me to be like, yeah, like I'm gonna be gung ho for like a month, and then like I just go back down the slippery slope, right? But then I hesitated, because then there seems to be other people that you've already mentioned, super successful people, like they just seem to just now be in this new stratosphere.
Go
And
from
so,
0 to 100.
are those people just slipping, but they're just at a higher point now because they've evolved, so to speak? Or
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it seems as if you're just meddling around here on the bottom, but then once you sort of just, do enough journaling, work out hard enough and work hard, then you just up into the stratosphere of like, okay, now I'm super successful, and like, none of the downfalls ever affect me. But I'm sure that's obviously not the case.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's so funny that you say that, because I'm not going to mention the name, but I do work with someone that's like very, very successful. And I've gotten to see a little bit behind the scenes, and they have the same imposter syndrome, and they are reaching hundreds of thousands of people that like look up to them, and behind the scenes, it is the same thought. I think that they probably just have an environment. Again, it comes down to the environment. And also when we see these people that go from 0 to 100 that are like, you know, I'm not working out at all, and then I'm working out 3 times a day. Usually that's not sustainable. Sometimes it is. But I am a firm believer that it's the little habits that add up. And like, we don't need to try to lose 20 pounds in 1 week. I hate that I keep like going back to fitness, or we don't need to try, if, you know, I'm a C/D student. It's not realistic for me to be like, I'm going to have all A's by the end of the month. It's like, okay, let's maybe get 5% higher on this paper. And then maybe 2%, like it adds, every day. I think it's just so easy for us to, it's like, I'm going to use this as an example. I wanted to start the 75 hard, and that's 2 workouts a day, 10 pages of reading a day, a gallon of water a day, a diet every day for 75 days. And if you cheat, you go back to 1. And I'm like doing it, feeling really good. And then like 2 weeks in, I'm like, okay, this is just like way too unrealistic for me. Like, I'm like crushing, you know, but I'm like forcing myself. Like, it's got to feel, I don't want to say feel good, because not everything's supposed to feel good, but it's got to feel right, you know. And and sometimes we overthink things. Like, it's so funny, you know, I'm in all these programs, and I really do believe that they can really benefit everyone's lives. But I was hoping that you were gonna make it. Wait, what's the name again?
This is Lilo.
Lilo.
Hello.
Hi, Lilo.
Lilo's been bothered by this con for like.
I'm really wanting to get a puppy for Christmas. I want a puppy so bad.
Okay.
So baby.
Bad. Go in the chair.
But I think we overthink things a lot. And I think that there's benefit and massive benefit to, like, you know, being a part of a program or being in therapy or being in anything that really challenges your mind and your thoughts. But sometimes I think people need to chill out and go sit in nature silently, and they'll have every answer after a while. Yeah. You know the answer. You know what's right for your life. You know, at a deep level. It's just, we have so much buzzing in our head that we're not even able to, and we have so much influence, you know, from our parents, from our friends. And now you rarely ask for people's opinions anymore. And when I do, I very clearly, especially like, let's say my brothers, I'm like, by the way, I'm saying this and I really don't want your opinion, because I already know what I'm going to do. I just want like your support. And so, you know, I just, because we have to go through those moments. The only way we really learn is through firsthand experience or from watching someone else do it. But usually it sticks when we learn for ourselves. So I just think that we have to listen to ourselves more and chill out a little bit and not overthink things too much.
You know who I've thought of 2 people in this last little part of our conversation. One, I'd be remiss to not talk about my favorite podcast host, Mr. Joe Rogan.
Oh my God.
But he talks about, speaking of polarizing, I bring him up sometimes. People are like, oh yeah, love him. He's like God. And the other people are like,
some people hate him.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, right.
But I've listened to his podcast long enough to either 1, be brainwashed, or 2, be convinced that he's like, no, he's chill. He's chill. He talks a lot about like, but you got to conquer your inner bitch. Like, yeah, like this. He's always like, he talks about how Instagram, he'll post and ghost. He'll just like post something because he's like, okay, I think this is valuable. And he just won't read any of the comments. I don't care what people have to say. Kind of like what you were saying, like opinions. Mm-hmm. Because he just is like, bro, there's so many times where I'm like, like I've been working hard all week. Like, I don't need to go on my run that I scheduled. Like, you know, like but you know, I think where kind of your point and his point meet, right, is like both ends of what you guys are saying is like, you know, like your own self know, like mm-hmm. if you are listening to your inner bitch, or if you're like, no, like I genuinely need to not do this or do that. Mm-hmm. And the other person I thought of when you were talking, of course, the actual queen bee, the real goddess, Brene Brown. Like the true, the true model when I had asked that question about like, oh, it just seems like, you know, people are shitty and then they just get awesome. She's somebody who I'm like, she feels like one of us, but
Yeah.
she's uber successful. Like the things like the vulnerability she shares and just, there was so many instances of quotes or videos where like I won't talk to you for like 3, 4, 5 months, and then I just be like,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of you because I saw this
Yeah,
Brene
right,
Brown
right.
video. But yeah, she's also an incredible person who seems to do, you know, be in this same realm that you're talking about. And I think I haven't quite figured out a way to articulate my vision for this. I mean, I came up with the name Live Aloha 365.
Yeah, of course.
Live Aloha 365 days of the year. Let's go.
Yeah.
But she has a quote that I kind of, you know, saw before, but recently came across again, and it just sort of, to this point, it does the best job of summing up, you know, this vision that I'm trying to, you know, bring to life or live every day. Is it's something like live that kind of love so you can give that kind of love. And so it's like, you know, being in a space where you can help other people or enrich their lives or add energy to their lives, right, seems to come from a place naturally when you're living it, right? So obviously my adjustment would be like live that aloha so you can give that aloha. And I think
Authenticity.
yeah, because it's not like live however you want and scam people about aloha, right? I mean, it's like, you know, that's something that Lilo and I, hi baby.
Hi, Lilo. Oh, don't think I don't see that spin bike back there.
You like that? Oh, you like that? Let's go. Quick sidebar. Quick sidebar. Yeah, we just stole it from our friend Margie. What?
Oh my God.
Another mover to California. She's going to California as well.
I know. I'm seeing that. I know. I'm so excited.
So, but yeah, anyway, live that kind of love to give that kind of love. And I think that's been dormant inside of me for a long time. I think a lot of people would be like, oh, Kyle, like he's so nice, or oh, Mr. Aloha, or you know, whatever they may say, but like how much time have I wasted? And how much time have I not spent being intentional about living aloha like every single day? Like I know I have the capability to do that. I think part of these conversations and something that you've really impacted me today is like, but you gotta like set up the systems. Like you can't just be like, yeah, like that'd be super cool if I could just be more intentional. Yeah. It's like, okay, why am I not being more intentional? Well, because I just bitch out every morning and I just, you know, whatever it may be.
You don't give space to even breathe into that a little bit, you know?
Yeah, and it's like I think part of that, speaking of giving grace, is like some people don't even ever bother to get their brain to think like that. Like they're just like, I'm just lazy.
Yep, the awareness.
And that's it. Like there's no like, imagine living your whole life not like what, you know, kind of doing the things that we've been articulating, like you've said, like question yourself, like, okay, why is this happening? Why? I had a good teacher, Michelle Jones, in college. She had us go through some of that similar practices, and she was one of the first people to do that. Like, well, why? And she just kept going down the why.
Yeah, you'll get to the root of it when you start asking why a lot. And I think, I mean, when you're, you know, it's like if I say I'm lazy, no, this is just how I am. When you start instead saying I am choosing to be lazy, I am choosing to not wake up, I am choosing. Once you put I am choosing, you then realize, oh, this is something I am doing to myself. It's not God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. It's not the world doing this to me. Someone didn't just slap it on. You know, here's a limiting belief I always had. And of course, we're talking a lot about body, and, you know, I'm in the health and wellness industry, and you know, as a fitness instructor, we're held to a different standard, or at least I hold myself to a different standard. And I'd always be like, well, I'm just naturally like a bigger girl. You know, my dad was 6'7". and I'm just an athlete and I'm just bigger boned, right? It's such bullshit. That's not like that. I didn't just like come out. I have incredible genetics, and it's like, no, I'm choosing to put ice cream in my mouth and popcorn in my mouth every night at 9 o'clock. Like once I start saying those things, like I'm choosing to not drink water, I'm choosing to not, then it's like, okay, whoa, okay, how can I make better choices? What systems do I need? And again, yeah, you're right. It just comes down to the environment and making small things. You don't need to go through your entire house and be like, get rid of everything. These friends are out of my life. Like maybe just put one day a week. You know, it's all about knowing yourself, really, truly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Give me like the Janessa Mast top 5 all time. Give me like the top 5 all time. You know, we've talked about journaling. I'm assuming that's on the top 5 all time. Like top 5 all time, bruh, like do these things and like, you know, there'll be some changes for sure.
Okay.
And I'm assuming there'll be like little actionable things, like you're saying. Okay, wake up and journal.
Yeah.
Is that on the list?
Yeah, I mean, I think naturally, and sometimes some people aren't journalers. So like my boyfriend, he's not a journaler because he has a really hard time sitting still. And I will say, like, one thing I'm noticing about our society is we idolize busyness. We're constantly being stimulated by the TV, by Instagram, by our phones, our computers, literally everything. We very rarely can like sit with ourselves and that like gives us anxiety because we're like, well, I can't even let all these thoughts come in because it's overwhelming me. So some people they don't like to write or read. So then figure out, okay, let me go back. Number 1, if you have not done the book, The Magic by Rhonda, I'm losing her last name. I have it on my table.
All good.
Yeah, link it, whatever. Rhonda, I can't remember. So anyways, if you haven't read the book, The Magic, that was the most life-changing book because it puts a 30-day practice ahead of you. And it's really all about gratitude. It's called The Magic. Game changer, life changer. My sister Jocelyn made me do it when I was going through a really hard time. And I was like, she said, look, if you still feel this way after you read this book and do these practices for 30 days, then come talk to me. And of course, it was a total game changer. But in addition to that, I would say the top 5 practices for me, and I can only speak to my experience, but I'm pretty sure they're going to make a difference in everyone's life because the most successful people do them. Not that I'm the most successful person, because trust me, I just want
everyone listening to know that I'm like pretty much like super successful. So if you like don't follow these next 5 things,
no, absolutely.
That's going to be the YouTube thumbnail.
Yeah.
Uber successful Zoom.
Here are the things. Number 1, journal if you can. If you can't journal, just sit with yourself. Go on a walk. Don't be distracted when you're doing it, and really just reflect on yesterday's day and what you want today to look like. And every time that I do my journal, I should show you guys, or I should show you. I always do gratitude. Always. It changes the game. Like even the things that you complain about, like, you know, this morning I was like, God, it's freezing in this house. The heater doesn't work and right? Initial thought. I'm like, okay, I'm so grateful that I even have a home that is like insulated and like I can sleep safely, yada, yada, yada. It just changes, it changes the vibration, right? It changes the energy. I'm a big believer that energy is the currency of my life. And I need to be at the most optimal energy I can be at, you know? So journaling, number 1, movement, always number 2. And that is probably the hardest thing for me right now because I'm just not motivated right now. I really am not. You know, last night I was like, I know I should go to the gym. Don't want to go to the gym. If I still don't want to be there when I get there, then I'll leave. But I think movement is key to people. I mean, that's just science, right? It increases endorphins. It's just, and I always work out first thing in the day just because I'm someone, if you give me till 5 o'clock, chances that I'm going to do it is just out the window because I'm going to let the day probably affect me. Hopefully not, but I'm not a perfect person. So I would say movement, journaling, say water is a big thing for me too. I just feel different when I'm like drinking water. and growing in some capacity every day. Is that your water or coffee? Oh, okay. I would say, yeah, growing and learning. I think that we always need to be, Tony Robbins, one of my favorite people of all time. He says growing equals progress. If you're not growing, you're dying, you know? So whatever that means for you, for in work, I always, every quarter, try to decide to take a new course that I'm going to learn something new. In my personal life, I try to read like a new book once a month or every other month. Now the rate at which I read that book, it could just be like 5 pages, 10 pages. But I'm always trying to learn and grow because we're always evolving, and I want to, and that can be a slippery slope because we sometimes can be like too obsessed with the growth that we are not like staying present and celebrating ourselves when we are achieving really big things. But I definitely believe that that is a really key, for me at least, aspect of setting myself up for success and setting my life up for success.
Sweet.
So those are really, I mean, that's it. Movement, some good old sitting with yourself, maybe some meditating. I've been having a very hard time this entire year meditating. My mind's just too busy. And so if you can do it, if you can get an app where it guides you through, that's amazing. But just be realistic with yourself and know what's going to, you know, ask yourself what's going to work, what's not going to work, what your biggest challenges are, and try to set up an environment or a system that's going to really serve you.
Absolutely. Janessa, I'm going to let you go. But I'm excited to go get a journal. I'm going to put my journal right here on my desk. So I'm going to look at it every day. I can be like, God dang it. Okay.
I'm going to be texting you. I will be texting you.
Just anytime you start writing in your journal, just be like, just send me a little text. Journal time.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to do that actually. You're going to get one at like 6 a.m.
Hey, well,
you're like,
talk about waking up early. A pro sequence of getting Lilo, our dog, hey, when she has to go to the bathroom, it's like, yo, daddy-o, wake up, let's go. And I was like, you know, before Lilo, sleep until whenever, like, okay, I can do that project later. Like, yeah, I can move that back. She gets up. I'm like, why am I going to go back to bed? I just walked my butt down the stairs from our three-story apartment in the cold. Okay, back up. Well, might as well start, grinding, like you said. And then,
what's so funny about the dog is I have been wanting a dog, specifically talking about environments. I know something that I'm really struggling with is like getting outside of the house because I work virtually. So I'm literally inside all day. And sometimes I'm like, I don't want to go on a walk because I'm busy. I literally want to get a dog because I want to have a bigger yes. Like I want to have something that really pushes me outside. So that's like another thing. Some people, like my mom, would be like, you're absolutely crazy. Like, don't use a dog to use a psycho. But like, I genuinely believe that if I have a bigger yes, it will get me outside of the things that I don't want to do. Right. Mm-hmm. It's just like having someone else to show up for. So I want to get a dog, but good. Yeah. And then I'll be waking up even earlier. Yay.
Full approve. That's not a great thing. If I'm like, yeah, totally, let it rip. Yeah. Go figure it out. Yeah. But anyway, Janessa, you are, the first ever, like whatever I'm going to call this, LiveAloha365 podcast person. You'll have to have you on just like periodically, just like.
I'm the first?
You're the first person.
I was going to ask if I was the first. I was like, I wonder.
You're the first person. So we'll have to make some kind of theme of this to just like, we got to get Janessa back on, see how things are going.
I mean, I love to talk and we can always go so much deeper. And I just want to acknowledge you. You're just one of the most incredible people. Every time we talk, I always walk away just feeling better. So I hope you know that, and I hope you receive that. And I'm really thankful for you in my life, and I'm thankful for the work that you're doing out in the community, and what you're representing and what you're really trying to do and influence others to do. It's awesome, and we need more people like you.
Janessa, I feel so empowered. I feel not like I needed a recharge, but I'm my energy is full because of
Good.
you. I think
Oh,
you need to hear that. I don't know. You do that for me, so I'm
no.
sure that that's happening for other people as well.
Right.
Until the next time, text me if you have any good things. You're like, yo, we need to get on the Zoom and talk about this. Let's go. Let's. Hey, Sean, got my
I
got my
love these.
blanket right
I
here.
love these virtual interviews that can just come up. We could just call it like coffee in the morning.
Coffee, yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Journal, and Janessa.
Journal and Janessa.
That'll be.
Creative
we'll
journal.
we'll work on the title. We'll work on the title. We'll
Yeah.
figure it out. Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I adore you. Thank you so much. Tell Kaylee hi.
I will.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, Janessa.
Bye.
Aloha. Bye.
Hilo's such a rainy old town. I listen to the rain come down. Don't it fall so free?